Hi, I'm John Hart and welcome back to Mr. America Hart. Today, men over 40. I'm speaking to you about whether low volume training or high volume training would be better for you long term, for both your physique progress as well as longevity, as far as your health and your joints and your muscles, okay? So, here's the thing that we need to focus on. Imperfections and imbalances are big issues. You've lived 40 plus years at this point. Maybe 50, maybe 60, maybe 70 years. You're training. You have a lifetime of usage on your body already. There's some parts of your body that are just not perfect. Nor were they perfect in the very beginning as far as being perfectly suited for the exercises that you're presenting it with. A good example I can think of is Dorian Yates. He admits that he was not the greatest squatter with a barbell, okay? Doing regular barbell squats hurt him. His femur is so long that one exercise, as much as he loved the challenge of it and lifting heavy weights and squatting up and down, the problem became that his body and his limb lengths were not perfectly suited for that form of squatting. So at some point in time, he kept going with it until it caused an injury to his hip. Now, that's interesting to me. And why is that interesting? Well, imperfections. If your body is not perfectly suited, doesn't mean there was a real imperfection, it's just not perfectly suited for the exercises you're choosing to do. Those imperfections or an imbalance between certain muscles, we're talking about, whether you're talking about rotator cuff being weak versus your pec, your lats, your delts, those imbalances, the more work you do, the more volume you do. The more work you do, the more volume you do. You feel me? The more volume, the more numbers of sets that you do, the closer you're going to bring your body to the point where this is pain, closer from usage to boom, pain. Suddenly something's going to hurt or be injured. This could be injury. Boom, injury. You keep the volume down low. You do the least amount necessary to get the most results. The likelihood of you destroying that joint or causing that imperfection to show up and blow up and bring big pain or injury is going to be minimized. It's going to be pushed back as long as possible. You may get to enjoy doing certain exercises for years and years until you get to the point where you realize, man, those upright rows that you used to do for 20 years when you were younger, right? Remember that exercise from back in the 60s, 70s, 80s? Upright rows, right? Those upright rows, they never bothered me before, and now they do. Well, part of that is you've caused impingement syndrome to your shoulder from doing upright rows for so many years. There's only so much volume you're going to be able to get away with until, boom, injury, boom, pain. Makes sense, right? You can only do so much of it. If you do tons and tons of upright rows, but your shoulders are not super indestructible, okay? Well, obviously, you're going to cause pain. When will that pain come? When will that injury to that joint come, do you think? After doing just one set a week of that exercise after you're fully warmed up? Or doing 5, 10 sets a week of upright rows? Which one do you think would bring out the injury or the pain much sooner? You see what I'm saying? So that's my take on low volume versus high volume training. Now, you're going to ask me, John, so you get it, right? Lower volume will push off any potential problems. It won't bring them up to the surface in the form of an injury that much sooner than if you do high volume training. Doing high volume training, low volume training is anywhere from 1 to 5 sets per body part. High volume training is anywhere from, usually, the average person does 10 to 20 sets per body part. Ultra high volume is 20 plus sets a body part. Doing those exercises for that many sets is no different than your checker girl, the checkout stand at the supermarket, right? Repetitive job motion, right? Repetitive job motion. They're not lifting weights at the supermarket. They're not lifting weights at all with their wrist, as a matter of fact. They're just flipping the wrist over. But repetitive job motion brings, for so many of them, carpal tunnel syndrome, pain in the wrist and the hands. And that's from repetitive motion. I mean, really, they're not even lifting weights. And yet, from too much repetition, too many reps, too many total reps. Are you hearing me? Too many total reps. Even in the gym with weight training, too many total reps. Repetition, too much repetition. Repetitive job motion, repetitive workout motion, we could call it. Wow. Now that will bring problems up to the surface way sooner, years sooner than possibly they should have ever come to the surface. Or even, how about this? Maybe they never should have come to the surface and you had enough, integrity in your joints to handle even doing an upright row. Maybe doing an upright row, old school style, 1 set per week. Maybe you could do a lifetime's worth of upright rows without causing shoulder impingement syndrome or pain or tearing a rotator cuff. I'm just using that as one example, by the way, that one exercise. There's many, like I just used the Dorian Yates example with the squats. Maybe if you kept the volume extra low and just did 1 set. Now Dorian, he was a low volume guy. He tore up his hip. But maybe you could go a whole lifetime of squatting without ever injuring your hip. Or doing hack squats, or doing leg presses, whatever the exercise is, without ever causing the injury. But, depending on how severe it is, and depending on how severe the imbalance is, it could come much, much sooner. You could exacerbate the problem by doing too much volume, too many repetitions, with or without weight, long term. Remember, repetitive job motion. So, having said all of that, now I can really make a good case as to why high-intensity training would be a better fit for all of you over 40. High-intensity training, or HIIT, they call it, right? The high-intensity training is generally taking a set of an exercise after you've warmed up to the point of momentary muscular failure, where you cannot possibly get one more repetition. That's in really good form. I'm not talking about doing it and cheating it up. I'm not talking about doing it, especially on squats or deadlifts. I'm not talking about doing those exercises to the point of complete and total failure. You're going to stop 1 repetition short on those. But by training on all of your other exercises to the point where you cannot get 1 full complete repetition, by nature, high-intensity training, by nature, is going to require that you do less than you would otherwise be capable of if you didn't train with a higher intensity, or you went down to a medium or moderate or low intensity training. Surely you could do a humongous amount of volume that way with moderate or low intensity, much like a marathon runner versus a sprinter. I've used that in one of my other videos. I've used that example. Sprinters, they put their foot down on the gas and they hit it hard for 100 yards. Marathon runners, they don't. They keep the intensity very low during their event. Marathon runners, sprinters, which ones do you think have absolutely more injuries? It's a gimme right here. No-brainer. Marathon runners. They have the knees, the feet, the lower back. Sprinters face maybe a hamstring here or there. You see what I'm saying? So, low volume. High-intensity training, by nature, will bring results, even if you say high-intensity training brings the same results as higher volume training, just by nature, for the fact that you're doing less with high-intensity training, means you'll have less wear and tear on your joints, less soft tissue injuries, less nervous system stress. How's that all sound? So that's it. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. And by the way, if you're liking these videos that I'm doing, please Smash the heck out of that like button all the way on your left, that thumbs up, and consider hitting that red subscribe button off to your bottom right over there. But look, what is your opinion on this? I'd love to hear it down in the comments section down below. I respond to almost all of the comments that are made. So please feel free, address it to me, or just give me your take on it. Let us all know if this makes sense to you, if you follow in this train of thought, or if there's some other way of thinking about it that somehow I've missed. And that's it for today. From my heart to you, John Hart, thank you for stopping by at Mr. America Hart.